guys can see me and hear me perfectly, I have some amazing news to tell you because I'm feeling like a little kid at Christmas because I have one of the many things I've been working on in the background, by the way. Look. Well, this is Question of Experiments, one chapter at a time. I might have to rename the show to like Storytime with Constantine because let's be honest, I know Charles Constantine has made an appearance. By the way, he also has a tail. So quick update on all the things. I figure I need to kind of get you up to speed of what's been happening because you guys are probably looking at me like, what is she doing and why? So back in April when I went to CyberCon, the amazing Violet Sprinkles had a plushie. And because I'm a little kid who's like, oh, tell Liz I say hi. I'm bragging about her. She had a macaroon plushie. And I'm like, the little kid was like, I want one. How do I get a macaroon sprinkle? Like, how do I get this? How do we get a plushie? So she's like, you should try one. So I'm like, can we get a plushie for Constantine? So here is the prototype, by the way, everyone. So Charles, who is here, of course, said, you should do some pre-orders to actually order more plushies. So things to be considering what we're going to do about this. But Constantine is here. So I need like a stool so he can hang out with us right here. So while we read, we have Constantine. So seriously considering actually doing a pre-orders for Constantine, see what we can do. You can probably order them that way, or you can get them when we go to some events. So we might legit change this to Storytime with Constantine because look how adorable, by the way. Look at this. So I was bragging to the parents who have been stuck on this journey with me on stories and books and Constantine. And I was like, Mom, what do you think? And she's like, I need one. I was like, you need one? So my nephew is supposed to be getting the very first one. So she's like, I'm sending you money. I'm like, I don't even have anything to send you. So good, better, different. Constantine is here and I'm super excited. So big shout out to Constantine. And in honor of Constantine, I'm actually going to read from Rise of the Reapers. I was thinking of considering origin stories, the origins of Constantine, because he does have one. But there was a lot of Egyptian names that I don't feel like butchering today. So we're going to just stick with Rise of the Reapers. So quick note for everybody who's curious about the novellas. So the Intern Diaries has specifically 3 novellas, goes right in tune with Isis' stories. So if you were looking at where should you read this, this is like book 3.5, if you wanted to look at it this way. This is what the boys do when Isis is not around. You can read it anytime. It is a standalone story, and this is more like legit story time with Constantine. So it goes perfect with today's episode. And it was one of the things that I kind of had a blast writing. So novellas for me and the Intern Diaries and Reapers Universe is kind of fun because Constantine is supposed to be 5,000-year-old talking cat. So if you're looking from the Empire, Egyptian Empire, 5,000 years ago, biggest first empire, Memphis is a capital, all the way up to now. So you can play a lot with history and all of the fun things. Yes, the fabric is absolutely super soft. I needed to brag about it. And he has this weird little band, I'm sure why. And Anubis is in the front. Egyptian, all of the things. And look at those eyebrows. By the way, I do that as well. So I was like, no comments. I should not have done that because now you guys are going to be thinking about it. So yeah, the same eyebrow too. Like, see, we can absolutely rock that look in case because I'm a ham. So Egyptian time, Memphis, all the fun things when it comes to Constantine. But he gets to tell you all these different stories. So a lot of the short stories, a lot of the novellas when it comes to Constantine is him going back in time and kind of giving you those flashbacks. So Rise of the Reapers is kind of the big, it is legit 3.0 because you talk about Reapers resting cat face. Absolutely resting cat face. I do it too. We're all judgy here. So Rise of the Reapers gives you that story. So it is probably one of the most fun because this is alternative history with a dash or splash of urban fantasy. So I'm going to take you to the fall of the Roman Empire right before the beginning of the Dark Ages. And it's just probably one of my favorites because I'm a little nerd and I like history. And if you can take some history and just flip it on its axis, even better. So I'm going to be doing probably, I say one chapter. I'm going to do 2 just because this is really short. And I really like this book. So hopefully you guys just, I don't know, entertain me. So let's do this. And by the way, Rise of the Reapers is an intergenerational novella, and this is for all of Constantine's fans. Thank you for always believing. And thank you for all you guys who truly enjoy Constantine and probably my madness because look how adorable he is. Yes, I'm going to be doing this all the time. So hopefully you guys are not like, what is she doing? It's just because I have a plushie from Constantine. Listen, we're all going to go super crazy here. So let's start. I'll give you some feedback throughout the day. Please remember, I am not a professional narrator, but I am a professional author, storyteller, and super ham. So with a plushie. So here we are. Let's have some fun. Rise of the Reapers, Chapter 1. Present day Texarkana, Texas. It was a warm winter, even for Northeast Texas. And since it's summer, it is excruciating hot in East Texas. Probably not as hot as New Orleans since I just got back from there, but still super hot. So you all understand the things here in Texas. The trees were bare, but winter refused to make its appearance. The Christmas decoration looked out of place next to the kids in shorts. The city of Texarkana, Texas, had a twin city on the Arkansas side. In both cities, the people acted differently this winter than previous ones. It wasn't the weather affecting the residents. Constantine could feel the unrest in the air. After 5 dozen years old, living around humans, the feline was very in tune with the mannerisms and traits. When the cities of Texarkana became the official haven for all the supernatural beings in North America, the population in the cities doubled. The increased number of supernatural beings was slowly changing the dynamics of the city. The human mind was incredible. It refused to process anything it didn't understand. While the eyes registered the strange beings, the brain ignored it or blocked it. It was the only way the gnomes, the pixies, the fairies, shapeshifters, and all the other creatures were going unnoticed in the cities. The Chamber of Commerce for the cities described the phenomena as an economic boom. Businesses were moving into town, and new residents were coming at an incredible rate. The cities were both expanding, which was a celebration for both communities. Unfortunately, the new residents brought with them their own set of problems that only Death's team could handle. It was due to Death's North America intern, Isis Black, claiming Texarkana as her home that made the city's haven. Policing the supernatural community was another duty that fell on the list of things to do. At this rate, we will still be wearing shorts at Christmas, Bob told Constantine as he stared at the window of his baby blue truck. Not sure the kids won't mind. Constantine licked his paw and looked out the passenger window towards Whataburger parking lot. That's just wrong. Bob shifted in his seat and carefully adjusted the gun in his pant holster. Why do you care? You hate Christmas. Last time I checked, you despised the cold and the snow. Constantine eyed Bob before returning to watching his face with his paw. Constantine's cleaning habits were the only normal cat thing Constantine ever did. He was an Egyptian cat who served as the guardian of the interns and death representatives in the mortal world. It's about the principle of the matter, Bob answered, not making eye contact with the boss. Of course. Principles, Constantine replied, rolling his eyes. Let's make sure those principles don't get you killed. A smirk spread across Bob's face as he ran his hands through his short blonde hair. Do you think they will come? Bob asked after a few minutes of silence. Constantine took a deep breath. His fur radiated with a soft glow as he scanned the area like a true predator. Unfortunately, yes, Constantine answered. Where else are they going to find the concentration of kids on a Friday night? It's not like we're in Dallas or even a large metropolis. Great, Bob shook his head. We don't need another werewolf gang in town. By the way, I'm just going to let you all know, because it's obviously confession time. I have no idea what's happening in this plot. I'm not even going to pretend. I wrote this book a while back. I know the story when we flashback. I'm not exactly sure what Bob and Constantine are in a stakeout for. So we're going to find out together because I'm going, what is happening in this book? And why can I remember? It's not my fault. There's a lot of stories in my head, but I have no clue, honestly, what is happening. So I'm trying to keep a straight face with you. And I'm going, I really don't know why they're in a stakeout at Whataburger. And Whataburger is like not that far from my house, but I'm like, they're in a stakeout at Whataburger. One of these days, I should read the book before we start this, but more fun with this date. I know I wrote it. I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm like,
what is the backstory behind the story that I wrote? So let's continue here because I have no clue. Shh, don't tell anybody. This is what you call it. I feel like a high school kids or like a college students that preps for a test and has like massive brain dump, and then like I can't remember anything that I studied. This is what it feels like. So here we are because this side blog, I have no clue what is happening here. So cross your fingers and let's figure it out. And hopefully I did it right. Because if not, I'm like, what was I thinking? So here we go. Does anybody need a werewolf gang recruiting in their town? Constantine snapped his head back. Shorty's coming. From his side of the mirror, Bob saw Shorty marching towards the truck. Like his name implied, Shorty was barely 5 feet 4 inches tall and maybe 125 pounds, fully clothed. Shorty was hired by Constantine earlier in the year for his great network and connections in town. Once a homeless man like Bob, Shorty now ranked the most organized underground network of informants in the four-state region. I'm going to tell you that I love the idea of having an underground group of homeless or transient community watching the city. And I pretty much stole that. I have no issues admitting it from Sherlock Holmes. I think that concept of having the community underground watching everything and reporting, because so many times they just go unnoticed. Good, bad, or indifferent. Our brains are kind of calibrated a little different. So this entire community is watching, reporting, and having every information to me is super interesting. So that's just a little side bit of why I'm infatuated with that, in case you guys were wondering. So here we go. Big boss, boss man. Shorty handed Bob a large strawberry milkshake. Anything out of the ordinary? Bob asked as he poured the milkshake into a small ceramic bowl and placed it in front of Constantine. It's Friday night on New Boston Road, so everything is out of the ordinary. Shorty pointed across the street towards the auto parts store. We found 3 kids high on pixie dust 20 minutes ago. The triplets rushed them to the station. When I find that dealer, I'm going to choke him. Welcome to Haven, Constantine told both men in between licks of his milkshake. Keep us posted. Will do. Shorty saluted Constantine and made his way across the street. Havens are a blessing and a curse, Constantine mumbled. Everybody's always welcome. A blessing for everyone who is persecuted. Unfortunately, you always have those who take advantage of any opportunity. If we don't take full control of the situation, Texarkana easily becomes a living hell. Bob froze, holding his cup in midair. Hell? How? With all the magic here, the death toll will quadruple. Constantine gazed with distance. Death will be busy escorting souls to their final destination from this town at an astronomical rate. How do we stop that from happening? Bob lowered his cup, unable to take another sip. Simple. They have to fear us more than the opportunities to make money or gain power. Constantine gave Bob a wicked grin, making his sharp canines shine in the night. I hope Isis is ready. Bob leaned his head against his window and looked down at his boss. Trust me. Give her 2 months of mediating supernatural domestic disputes and she'll be ready. Constantine giggled. That girl has a temper. You push her hard enough, and the goblins, trolls, and ghouls will be terrified of her. I hope you're right, boss, Bob replied, rubbing his eyes. You might as well get comfortable. Looks like we could be here a long night. Constantine took his favorite space pose and watched the parking lot from the window. After a few minutes, he said, Have I told you how the Reapers were created? I don't think so. Bob sat up in his seat and gave Constantine his undivided attention. This is a long one, but we do have plenty of time, Constantine said, starting his story. We're not proud of this part of our history, but it happened. The year was 475 AD, before the fall of the Roman Empire. So that's the very beginning. So thinking back, this is right after, think about this. So this is after Forbidden War. So Reapers comes, if you wanted to kind of chronologically. And the reason it happened is because I never told anybody in war how they have Reapers and why Constantine and the team hates vampires. So Forbidden War is a star-crossed lover story between an elf and a vampire. And War, the Horsemen of War, kind of convinces the team that they have to go help him negotiate this treaty because they owe him. So this is the story of why they owe him, kind of thing. So it's kind of the backstory behind the backstory. So the vampires, they have an entire evil, to some extent, history with death and the interns. So it's kind of going back in time. So Constantine is going to give you that. So let me give you, I also realize this is the kind of the quick story of why everybody fears death interns and why everybody is petrified of them is because in order to maintain Haven, the whole concept behind it is that they have to be ruthless, which none of ISIS and the team are. So Constantine is like, we need to prep you to be officially judgment in this town or else it's going to be horrible. Little backstory of that. So now let's go back in time because I love alternative history, especially when magic's involved. So most of the times, if you guys follow alternative history, it's just kind of like taking you back and you kind of have the story. So, or even a really awesome story of what's happening. This is straight historical facts are pretty okay. Done lots of research to give you back that time place. What it does add is a little twist. And because I do supernatural and I do urban fantasy, I have a great time twisting it around. So we're going to give you chapter 2 because, and I say we because Constantine is officially here. So we're going to go ahead and do chapter 2 just because I really like this book. And then we're going to go, and then you guys can give me a heads up what you guys think of changing this title. So let's do chapter 2. 475 AD, Rome, Italy. The narrow alley was dark, and the stench of human feces assaulted Constantine's senses. The Romans claimed the Western Empire was the crown glory of the world. Constantine usually disagreed. He never remembered ancient Egypt smelling this bad. The Roman Empire was in a state of turmoil, mainly because the young Emperor Romulus Augustus struggled to keep control of the empire while the wealthy were too busy enjoying the riches. This way, Sergius, we don't have a lot of time. Constantine hurried down the alley towards a dark lump in the ground. Why do we always have to wander the city at night? Sergius pulled out his toga and rushed quickly behind Constantine. Do you want to lose another soul? Constantine murmured, stopping in front of the pump. This one is fresh. Of course I don't. But some of us don't have your eyesight, Sergius replied, a little out of breath. Sergius leaned down and turning the dismantled body around. The corpse had well-defined muscles, but the left side of his face and neck were gashed open. Constantine moved to the opposite side of the body and sniffed the corpse's clothing. Very little blood was found around the body, despite the large one on the neck. Sergius leaned back on the balls of his heel, playing with his curly brown hair. On a normal day, Sergius looked younger than his 18 years, a great asset to help him fool the authorities and escape some very indiscreet situations. This evening, thought, he looked aged and worried. Nothing. The soul is gone. I can't feel his presence anywhere around here. Sergius scanned the alley. How is that possible? This man's still warm. Quiet. Constantine spun to face the entrance of the alley. Hurry, someone's coming. Sergius squinted, his eyes following the direction Constantine had been looking at. Constantine jumped over the body and dragged Sergius by his tunic. They barely made it to the far corner when 2 large men walked towards the corpse. Sergius held his breath and Constantine stood ready to pounce. We need to assign this job to the new recruits, the taller of the 2 men said in a hushed voice. I wish, the companion replied, looking up and down the alley. Last time that happened, those half-wits ate the body. Who eats flesh? The first man made a retching sound. These new recruits leave a lot to be desired. Tell me about it. Grab the body. We have a lot to do. This day is not over. The second man headed out the alley without waiting for a reply. His companion picked up the body with one hand and tossed it over his shoulder in one smooth motion. He left the alley at a leisure pace, like a man without a care in the world. Constantine, what in Christ's name is going on here? Sergius moved slowly to the center of the alley. There's no way they were able to see him from over there. Even if their vision wasn't extraordinary, they didn't need to see him. They knew exactly where to find him. Constantine moved, stopping next to Sergius. This just confirms we have bigger problems than those 2. We have bigger problems than men with supernatural strength that can see in the dark? Sergius asked, his tone sarcastic as he paced circles around the location of the missing victim. If they're the only ones, I wouldn't care. But by the sound of their conversation, there are many more. Constantine smelled the ground, his ears twitching.
What exactly do we have more of? Sergeant kneeled next to Constantine. Vampires. Constantine hissed the word. A large concentration of them by the sounds of the conversation. In Rome? That's impossible. We have an agreement. Sergius ran his hand over his hair, making it stand up and straight. Sergius took a deep breath before speaking, but the veins on his forehead were pulsating. What are we going to do? We have to call death. Constantine stood up on horse and shook himself. I thought we never were supposed to call death. Sergius' voice cracked and sweat beads ran down his forehead. We? That sounds like too many people, Constantine replied, whipping his face with his paw. You are not supposed to call death. I can call whenever I want. I need to leave before someone else comes to investigate. Sergius followed Constantine out of the alley, looking over his shoulder. He adjusted his toga several times and picked up speed as soon as they cleared the alleyway. We have a little page break. Constantine. I don't know why I keep giving Constantine a plug, probably because he's sitting right there and he still looks adorable. And this is his story, so we might as well talk about him. So here we go. Constantine and Sergius live in a modest brick cottage by the Tiber River. The cottage was comfortable and secure, but not so extravagant that it would draw attention. Being employed by Death had provided Sergius with an increase in wealth, something he was still trying to get used to since he'd been a poor farm boy from the countryside. Constantine had advised not sharing his new occupation or income with anyone. The Roman Empire was in a transition of faith, and accidentally informing one of the zealots could land them both an attention. While the cottage had very few neighbors, both Sergius and Constantine made it a point to avoid attention. They entered the residence through the back to avoid potential onlookers of their constant travels. As they entered the house, Sergius stopped short at the doorway. In the living room, he found a couple of candles lit. What are you doing? Constantine asked after slamming into the back of Sergius' legs. Somebody's here, Sergius whispered. Of course somebody's here. I told you I was calling death. Constantine rolled his eyes and walked around Sergius towards the living room. On the far side of the room, standing by a window, stood Death. His muscular frame made him look dignified. He was wearing a sanji, an Egyptian male pleated skirt. His dark hair was combed back, making it sparkle with the light when the light hit him. So, quick note. So, for anybody who's been reading Death's Intern or the series, Death in Death's Intern in modern times actually takes the shape of whatever people want. So basically, whatever you think death is going to come and take you to the next life, that's what appears. So if you think death looks like the demon that it is, for Isis, death looks like her dead mother. So, but in the story, just a quick heads up. So if you read Urges of Constantine, huge homage to my favorite god of Egyptian mythology, Anubis. Death is technically Anubis. That's kind of where Anubis transitioned to in that mythology. So for our current concept is you get to see what Anubis looks like as a human form. So that's kind of what as he migrates or as he transitions through times, he actually becomes more of a shapeshifter for people and their own faith as he transitions to the next world. In this book specifically, as well as in the Origins of Constantine, you still see Anubis as a human. Just giving you guys a heads up. So that's kind of the concept of why it happens to be a male Egyptian instead of Death as Isis knows him. Or knows her. Yeah, that's more accurate. So here we go. And hopefully that was not super confusing, but that's kind of the behind the lore scene of why Death is different. So here we are. Well, I see someone was home recently, Constantine told Death as he entered the room. For being who swore never to go back, you do spend a lot of time in that part of the world. People die everywhere, remember? Death never turned around to address Constantine. What is so important that you have to drag me here at this hour? Your favorite pests of the room are back. Constantine hopped on the small table in the center of the room and proceeded to clean the underside of his leg. Are you sure? Death asked. We found 8 dead bodies in the last 3 days, but not a single soul. Constantine answered, not bothering to look up at his boss. Did any of the bodies have anything in common? Death paced the room, staring at the floor. Nothing, Sergius answered from the doorway. Oh, thank you for deciding to join the party. Constantine signaled to Sergius with his paw. Would you care to come in, or are you planning to hold the door up all night? Sorry,
Sergius mumbled. Death, you remember our little apprentice, Sergius? Constantine asked in an overly dramatic tone, pointing at him. Don't be ridiculous. I know, Sergius. Death shook his head and stopped pacing. Just making sure. Since you come around so rarely, I figured introductions were in order. Constantine blinked fast, and mocking smile spread across his lips. Thank you for the reminder, but can we get back to your vampire theory? Death sat on one of the chairs and pointed at the empty one next to him. Sergius quickly took his seat. The rumors started at the Capitol after sightings of mysterious bodies that appeared and were gone by the time the Legionnaires showed up. Sergius delivered his speech without breathing. The strangest part was nobody came forward to report anyone missing. The witnesses saw the bodies they saw were dead, but there's no proof. Tonight, we saw 2 bloodsuckers collecting one of the bodies. Constantine cleaned his face as he spoke. Have you heard anything in your travels? Nothing. Death was rigid, his only movement coming from his index fingers casually tapping his legs. Seems like you two have work to do. We have an agreement, and I want to know if the vampires have broken it. If they're taking humans without their consent, they will meet their end in the underworld. Yes, Death. Sergius bounced to his feet and saluted Death. I like him, Death told Constantine. You can learn a few lessons from him. Not in this lifetime, Constantine hissed and rolled over, pointing his butt towards Death. Enough games, Constantine. Get to work. Death snapped his fingers and disappeared. Wow, impressive. Sergius squealed. He is Death, Dramatic's part of the persona. Constantine rolled back to his side and sat up. Unfortunately, he seems to be getting a little more arrogant with age. I hope that doesn't come back to get us. How did you get used to all this finger snapping and disappearing? After a few millennia, you don't even notice. But enough of Death. He's right, and we have a lot of work to do. Constantine slid down off the table, landing gracefully on the floor. I have a few places to visit tonight, so get some rest. Tomorrow, it's going to be an early day. You don't want me to come with you? Sergius asked as he sat down. Don't give me that lost puppy look, Constantine told Sergius. I'm not doing anything. Sergius pouted his lips and made his eyes wide and innocent. Of course not, Constantine glared at him. Where I'm going, you won't fit. Go to sleep. You'll have plenty to do tomorrow. Before Sergius could say anything, Constantine jumped out of the open window. Sergius ran to the window, but Constantine had already disappeared. And that is the end of Chapter 2 of Rise of the Reapers. Seriously, one really fun story. It's all about the concept of vampires running Rome and gives you a little twist of how the Roman Empire fell. Probably because I have an obsession with the Renaissance period. Hence the whole fall of the Roman Empire, beginning the Dark Ages, and why humanity spent 1,000 years that way. So if you're really curious of what my take in, go ahead and pick this back. It's super fun, short novella for everybody who's interested. And you get to find out Constantine's side of the story of what really happened. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you for joining me. Hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to say we're going to try to come back on Saturday. But I said that last week and we ended up on Sunday. So we're going to do the best we can and actually be back on a regular schedule on Saturday so we can actually have discussion. I will let you know probably by then if we're going to put Constantine's pre-orders up and how we're going to do that because I don't know right now. In the meantime, thank you. Hope you guys had a blast. And I will see you guys next week. Adios, everybody. Thank you.